smile upon my face, 'cause there's excitement in the chase. This I know. Yeah, I'm going for the ride and find myself I am alive and I soar. Still I run towards the wind and let the challenge draw me in, 'cause I want more. Oh, we are all looking for adventure. 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 Oh, wake up heart and wake up mind, and see the world is yours to find. And with every passing day there's more, calling you out to explore. Get up and go. There is joy found in the race, and I feel it in the place where I'm free. And I simply can't deny it, that I feel adventure calling out to me. Yeah, we are all looking for adventure. We are all looking for adventure. We are all looking for adventure. We are all looking for adventure.
Good afternoon, everyone. Magandang hapon po, magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. Welcome to the 6th Geo Lecture Series. And this is brought to you by the Philippine Geographical Society, or PGS. And this is in partnership with the UP Department of Geography and 2 undergraduate classes in Transport Geography, or Geography 1A3. And this is also part of the 40th anniversary celebration of the UP Department of Geography. I am Jay Kadag, and I will be your moderator for this lecture. Just a few reminders before we proceed. Kindly keep your microphones on mute during the presentation, and we encourage you to interact by typing your comments and questions in the chat box. They will be addressed during the open forum. Also, please note that this meeting is being recorded. The recording will be made available for viewing after the event to the Department of Geography YouTube channel. Before we proceed to the actual lecture, I'm super excited na kayo. We will have first Sir Eman Garcia, the president of the Philippine Geographical Society, to give the opening remarks.
Thank you, Jake. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Welcome to another episode of the Geo Lecture Series. I hope by now we are familiar with why this series is called Geo, because however we say geography in our vernacular, geografia or geografia, what's more important is how we convey our research studies. And here in geography, we do it specially and spatially. The Geo Lecture Series is brought to us by the Philippine Geographical Society and the UP Department of Geography, and this forms part of the 40th anniversary celebration of the department. This is our 6th lecture for the year, and the first for the 3 lectures scheduled this month. This afternoon, our topic is something familiar to us because we all have experienced urban transportation. Particularly, our speakers will talk about LCT in the Philippines. What this is, sabay-sabay nating alamin sa lecture natin ngayong hapon. Gaya ng dati, we made a word cloud from the registration keywords submitted. Dominant words are accessible, inefficient, complex, traffic, congested, hassle, busy, loud. On the other side, there are also words as inclusive, development, problematic, car-centric, and efficient. Paano nga ba talaga magkaroon ng efficient transport system? Let us see how this all connects to this afternoon's talk. Muli, maraming salamat po sa inyong pagdalo. On behalf of the Philippine Geographical Society and the UP Department of Geography, welcome to the 6th Geo Lecture Series.
Thank you, Sir Eman. Now, I think we're on the most exciting part of the lecture. But first, allow me to introduce to you our invited speakers for this lecture. Here we have Ms. Raisa Salvador. She's the project manager of the low carbon urban transport, or LCT project, of the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, in the Philippines. Prior to this, she worked as a development worker with 9 years of experience with the Department of Social Welfare and Development as a project development officer and project manager, and has done various research works with universities in the Philippines and Singapore. She received her bachelor's degree in public administration from UP Diliman and holds a master's degree in public administration at the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy of the National University of Singapore. Her research interests are focused on social development in the Philippines, particularly housing and development and minority sectors, democracy and political participation, more specifically, Philippine elections, and innovations and solutions. And also with her is J.B. Valderrama. He is the Research Associate for Awareness and Capacity Development of the LCT Project of UNDP Philippines. He is a licensed architect and a development worker with experience in urban planning, project implementation, policy development, and community development with his work in the private sector and a few government agencies in the Philippines. He received his bachelor's degree in architecture from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and is currently pursuing a master's degree in geography in the same university, o dito po sa ating Department of Geography, with research interest in disaster risk reduction, or DRR, environment, transport, and urban geographies. Ms. Raisa, JV, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Prof. J. Let us share our screen so that we can start with this very, very short, and hopefully your students and your viewers will get something from us at least. So yun. Good afternoon, friends and viewers. So before we begin with this very short talk, we just want to thank the Philippine Geographic Society, of course, for inviting us in this webinar. It's always an honor to come back to UP. Malayong lupain man ang marating, babalik pa rin. Parang gano'n to. Ano na ba yung sabi ng UP naming mahal. So anyway, yeah, it's an honor to share our experience in advocating for the low-carbon urban transport system in this country. So, yeah, sige, next slide, please, JB. Yeah, so na-introduce na kami ni Sir Jake kanina, so we'll skip this. So, we will basically introduce this project that we're currently working on right now, as well as discuss how each one of us, especially you, in the youth sector, can contribute to the promotion of LCT in your own household. So kahit sa kanya-kanyang paraan, we can all promote LCT. So siguro kwento lang muna para medyo light lang, no? Hindi tayo masyado academic at formal. Galing lang akong Baguio kanina. I was telling Prof. Jake that I left Baguio around noon, and we were caught on traffic. Kasi sabi ko, Manila, Baguio, ano lang yan, 4 to 5 hours. Na-traffic kami. Biglang na-traffic sa Bukawi. So parang ako, sabi ko kay JV kanina, ang worst case dito is magkoconnect ako from the car. And okay na yun na introduction kasi ito na yung problema di ba? So sobrang bigat na traffic, problema, hindi ako nakarating ng on time sa webinar ng PGS. So yun na yung problema. So hindi na kailangan mag-intro ganyan. So anyway, that's really a problem here in the Philippines, and I think hindi lang ako ang naka-experience. It's not only us. Lalo na siguro yung mga commuters nating mga estudyante. I remember when I was studying, I lived in Alabang, and I would commute from UP to Alabang. So MRT Panrangco, tapos MRT, tapos nagbabus ako from Taft Avenue hanggang Alabang, and then jeep, and then tricycle papasok sa village. So it's very inconvenient for us, for the middle class, and of course para sa mga kapatid natin na nasa laylayan. It's very transportation is very inconvenient. Ang hirap it's very difficult to move people, and of course move ideas, and move different products, diba? So sobrang hirap sa Pilipinas. And I want to highlight, since we're gonna talk about our project, the LCT project, I want to highlight one problem which I think is very apparent right now. Yung GHG emission. So umiinit na, lumalamig, sobrang init, 42 degrees the other day. And sa Baguio City, hindi na ako nag-jacket, nagdala ako ng jacket pero hindi ko siya nagamit kasi mainit na din sa Baguio City. And this is the GHG, greenhouse gases, are great contributor to the climate change, to what we call the climate change. And the third contributor in the Philippines, at least, for the GHG emissions, next to agricultural sector and the energy sector, is, syempre, transport sector. Na-traffic ako kanina, nag-contribute pa ako sa greenhouse gas emission. So, kumbaga ay double-edged sword itong transportation dito sa bansa natin. Ito, nasa slide na to, kung ilan yung emission noong kailan ba tong data natin? 2016, no? Nung 2016. And for sure, mas malaki pa ngayon. Nung nagka-COVID, nakita natin na yung traffic sa EDSA ay gumaan. Nakikita na yung mga bundok sa sa Rizal from Cubao or from dito sa Mandaluyong. Ibig sabihin, mas naging malinaw yung mas naging naging malinaw yung environment natin during that time. And that was during the pandemic. But post-pandemic, post 2020, 2021, bumalik ulit tayo sa dati dahil kailangan ng ekonomiya natin, ang mobility. So bumalik ulit tayo. At during this time ganun ulit ang nangyari. May mga emissions ulit due to the transport sector. At makikita nyo dito sa slide na to na ang road sector ang may pinakamalaki sa chunk ng greenhouse gas emission. Next is the maritime sector, railway, and the aviation sector. Sige, next slide please, JB. And another problem, which yung na-experience ko kanina, is yung road inequity. Ano nga ba itong road inequity? Road inequity, makikita natin sa EDSA ngayon. Mas malaki pa rin yung espasyo ng private vehicles, di po ba? Than yung one lane na free up para sa public utility at syempre yung MRT natin na nasa ibabaw naman. So, makikita natin dito na hindi pa din pantay ang private at yung public utility. Anong ibig sabihin nito? On a developmental point of view, simple lang sinasabi nito na mas prioridad pa rin ng ating gobyerno, mas prioridad pa rin sa road sector ang mga pribadong sasakyan. So kung titignan natin, yung mga mas nakakaangat na mga tao, mga kababayan natin na nakaka-afford ng bumili ng private vehicle or mag-grab or mag-taxi, sila yung mas nakakakuha ng mas malaking espasyo sa daan. So kung nasa developmental point of view po tayo, ang tanong lamang diyan yung mga masa pababa nandoon nagsisiksikan doon sa one lane ng PUV at sa MRT, hindi po ba? So doon po natin nakikita yung problema. Kaya po tayo nag-advocate. That's why we're advocating for the low carbon urban transport, hindi lamang hindi lamang to EV, electric vehicles, kundi active transportation din po. Anong ibig sabihin ng active transportation? Yung mga alternative transportation natin tulad ng cycling and paglalakad, pedestrianization. So yun po ang ina-advocate ng proyekto na LCT. Ng UNDP at ng DOTr. So sige, next slide, JB. Yeah. So yun. So ito na yun, that's what I just mentioned na the promotion of the LCT in the Philippines is jointly implemented by DOTr, the Department of Transport, the United Nations Development Program, and our funder is the Global Environment Facility. Okay, next slide, please. So we have a few objectives na sana ay ma-reach natin by project end. So of course, our main aim, as I've been talking about later, is we want to lessen the greenhouse gas emissions of the public transportation sector, but also through the creation of an enabling environment for the commercialization of low-carbon urban transport system and promotion through the promotion of electric or hybrid vehicles, as well as yung nabanggit ko na alternative modes, which is active transport, such as cycling and walking or pedestrianization. That's our ultimate goal. We also have other objectives, such as yung pag-enforce natin ng policies, since we want to have an enabling environment for the commercialization of LCTs. Gusto natin na maging epektibo ang pag-enforce or pag-implement ng polisiya to support the promotion of LCT. So sa ngayon, meron na po tayong mga batas such as yung EVIDA, CREVI, na nagso-support sa pag-shift natin ng LCT, pag-shift sa EVs or sa modernized vehicles ng ating public transport system. Ngunit meron pa rin po tayong mga naririnig sa news, no, sa balita na nagsa-strike. Bakit kaya? So baka meron pa pong mga problema when it comes to policy. At yun po yung gusto natin sana, natulungan ang gobyerno para masolusyonan po at para wala nang mag-strike, para lahat tayo, para maging equitable na ang public transport at ang modernization as a whole. So next is to adopt and implement LCT plans and programs in major cities. So tumutulong po kami sa pag-introduce ng LCT sa aming mga pilot cities. So, meron po tayong mga partners from the academe. So, ang UPNCTS ay partner natin dito sa pag-promote ng mga programa ng LCT sa mga major cities natin. So, ayan, maraming salamat sa UPNCTS sa pagtanggap nitong partnership na to. So, next is, we want to increase the private sector participation in the widespread deployment and commercialization of LCT systems. So we acknowledge the fact that this shift or this advocacy cannot be done by the government alone. Hindi din kaya ng UNDP. Kaya po natin ini-involve heavily ang ating private sector. Dahil sila mainly ang nagmamanufacture at sila po yung nagdadala dito sa bansa ng teknolohiya, ng low carbon technologies. So, yun po isa sa aim ng programa ay para malink din po yung mga manufacturers sa mga transport cooperatives. Kasi yung mga transport cooperatives natin siguro hindi pa nila alam kung saan sila kukuha ng supply ng kanilang electric vehicles for the modernization, ganyan. At syempre, may mga agam-agam pa din ang ating mga transport cooperatives sa pag-shift sa modernized unit, particularly electric vehicles. Kasi nga, in the past, alam ko naman na may mga nakikita tayo ng mga bad experience ng ating mga transport cooperatives sa electric vehicles at sa modernized units. That's on top of yung kinakatakot-takot na presyo, no? Ng ating ng mga modernized units. So, yun, aside from that is we want to increase private sector investment dahil nga as mentioned earlier, very dependent tayo sa private sector sa ngayon when it comes to manufacturing. Pero ang ating mga partners sa Department of Trade and Industry ay may mga ginagawa naman na din na mga steps para makapag-manufacture tayo ng ating sariling mga vehicles. So, but that will happen siguro long run pa to, no? So for the meantime, as a low-hanging fruit, we want to involve as much private sector in this project. So next slide, please. So aside from that, this project also aims to address 3 of the sustainable SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. So, isa dito, yung sustainable cities and communities, climate action, and partnership for the goals. So, ito yung mga ina-address natin mula sa 17, tama ba? 17 ba SDGs natin? So, yeah, 17 SDGs ng United Nations. Sige, next slide po. So, dahil nga, we have very, madaming gustong mangyari sa proyektong ito. We have project components. We have 3 project components. So first is the policy support. Tulad nga ng nabanggit ko, may mga pulisiya pa na kailangan ang national government at mga local governments para mas efficient ang kanilang implementation or kanilang advocacy on the LCT. So kaya din tayo merong policy support mula sa programa para makapag-develop at makapag-implement ng mga pulisiya na pwedeng mag-support sa shift to low carbon alternatives ng national government, of course, local governments as well. The second component is awareness in institutional capacity development. Ito ay napaka-importante sa proyekto dahil ito yung component na nag-advocate ng LCT sa mga agencies, sa mga local governments, and of course, tulad ng ginagawa, kaya kami nandito ngayon, parte ito ng component 2, which is we want to advocate to the academic sector as well. So, gusto kasi natin na ma-achieve yung greater level of coordination between agencies and of course, yung mga yung masa, yung mga gumagamit mismo ng public transportation. And of course, yung ating mga transport cooperatives na partners natin sa proyektong ito. So gusto natin na mas mapalawak pa ang kanilang appreciation sa LCT, sa EVs, electric vehicles, and of course, sa active transportation. And last component of this project is the investment of in low carbon transport system in the country. So, ito po yung isang crucial din po na component ng programa dahil it responds to the underlying technology, market, and investment barriers to ensure commercial uptake of e-jeepneys and yung hybrid buses for mass transportation. So, nais natin na ma-promote yung ating mga manufacturing companies dito sa Pilipinas, and of course, other manufacturing companies din, pwede ding abroad, ganyan, para din mas ma-increase pa yung level ng trust nung tao, hindi lang nung mga transport cooperatives and corporations, but of course yung tao na sumakay sa electric vehicles. Kasi nakikita po namin sa aming experience, madami pa din po ang natatakot na sumakay sa EV kasi meron atin daw silang napanood sa YouTube na na sumabog ata somewhere sa Quezon City, hindi ko sure kung saan yon. So, yun po yung mga nakikita natin, kaya merong agam-agam, may mga doubts, may mga doubts po yung ating riding public sa electric vehicles. Pero parte po ng programa, parte po ng gusto nating i-advocate sa programa ay ito nga po na we trust the technology, the latest technology. Kasi kami din po sa United Nations, sa DOTr, tinest naman at ang ating government agencies, talaga naman na tinutulungan nila tayo to ensure that the riding public is safe doon sa mga ide-deploy po natin na electric vehicles. Sige, next slide po. So meron tayong pilot cities for your information lamang po. Kaya ako galing sa Baguio City kanina kasi isa ang Baguio sa ating pilot city. Isa din po ang Pasig City, Santa Rosa City sa Laguna at Iloilo City. So ito po yung ating mga pilot cities sa LCT. So I think that's it for the introduction to LCT, but I will call on my colleague JD to discuss to you about how this can be more helpful to you as students, and of course syempre sa general public na din. So I think over to you, JB.
Thank you, Ms. Rai. So a brief anecdote lang. So while we were preparing for this talk, I asked Sir Jake, since siya yung nag-invite sa amin, Sir, ano ba yung yung expectation nyo sa presentation namin, since parang medyo boring ata if magdi-discuss lang kami purely about the project, no? And syempre, may expectation pa rin na bigyan ng kahit papaano ng konting geographic thinking yung aming presentation. So sabi niya, mas ganda pa rin daw lagyan. So nag-try ako mag-isip, paano ba siya i-relate yung project namin to geography sa mga natutunan ko in the past few semesters sa geography. So gusto ko lang balikan na yung essence of transport geography, which is transport is a spatial activity, no? It is a spatial activity because it is about yung movement of people, kagaya nga ng sinabi ni Ms. Raisa kanina, movement of people, movement of goods, and even ideas, no, from one location to another. So very very spatial siya in essence. And kung i-relate natin to dun sa project natin and dun sa mismong nature of transportation, una nating may isip ay kalsada or yung street. So for me, yung street hindi lang siya isang physical entity, no, na kung saan nangyayari or nagfo-flow yung transportation. It is also very impactful sa ating socio-economic aspect, no, ng urban development per se. Kasi for me, yung street, it is a space na nagpa-facilitate ng mobility. So parang yun yung lagi nating naiisip. But it also represents community and inclusion and also evokes power tsaka progress in terms of development nga. So with that, sobrang influential ng street na maging space for the promotion of low carbon transport systems. Pero sa anong paraan? When looking back dun sa mga interventions na ginawa namin dito sa project, makikita natin na it can be through sustainable mobility and placemaking. So here are some examples lang of how we have parang created or promoted LCT sa kalsada through sustainable mobility and placemaking. So unang-una, when we say sustainable mobility, una natin naiisip parang bike lanes, active mobility. Pero yung pinaka-essence niya siguro is yung idea of moving people and not cars. Because sustainable mobility is not just about reducing carbon emissions, but it is also about providing services and better infrastructure para dun sa movement nga ng mga tao. Na safe, affordable, accessible, efficient, and resilient, na hindi nako-compromise kung ano ba yung needs ng future generations in terms of transportation. So in this diagram from the Bicycle Innovation Lab, pinapakita lang natin na dapat yung priority in terms of access nga sa road natin is yung pedestrians, no? And then yung bikers, tapos yung public transportation, saka pa lang yung mga vehicles natin or yung mga private cars, and then saka yung long distance na mga travel such as the aviation industry. Babalik lang to dun sa sinasabi ni Ms. Raisa kanina na isa sa pinakamalalang problema pagdating sa public transportation natin is yung pagiging car-centric nito, no? Na malaki pa rin yung, when it comes to development, malaking consideration pa rin yung pag-design para sa mga kotse. Sa simpleng paggawa pa lang ng mga ng mga parkings, no, na malaking area yung nasasakop niya para sa mga sasakyan. At yung mismong patuloy na tuligsa, no, dun sa pagpapalawig ng bicycle lanes, no, dito sa Metro Manila and sa iba pang mga cities, na parang nung pandemic ang daming naglitawan ng mga bicycle lanes, pero ngayong unti-unti nang bumabalik sa normal yung activities ng mga tao, tinatry nilang ibalik, no, dun yung bicycle lanes para naman sa mga sasakyan. So para kumbaga nagre-regress tayo dun sa development na tinatry natin tutulan at ipakita nga sa government agencies na part of sustainable development is ensuring na yung sustainable mobility ay na-focus or na-ensure yung equitable access ng lahat ng tao sa kalsada. So here are some example or photos from the Philippines, to na ano ba yung mga sample public transportation systems na meron tayo. So during the pandemic, it was a good practice to na nagkaroon na ng specific lane for the EDSA busway sa EDSA. So nakita natin na parang with this bus lane, mas naging efficient yung pag-travel sa EDSA using a bus na mass public transportation. Another aspect is yung MRT, no, and also yung mga jeepneys natin na hanggang ngayon patuloy pa rin yung mga discussions, no, on its modernization. And lastly, yung ating last mile na tricycle. Pero yung pinaka pinuput forward, no, ng LCT project is the transition or pag-adapt, no, ng mga transport cooperatives to electric vehicles. So with the passage of the EVIDA law and yung pag-craft na ng CREVI, mas napapalakas yung enforcement ng pag-shift or pag-adapt ng mga transport cooperatives to using electric vehicles sa kanilang mga fleets sa mga PUJs. Another example would also be active transportation para ma-ensure natin na equal nga yung opportunity sa kalsada, equal yung space, no, ng equitable yung space para sa lahat ng commuters, hindi lamang ng mga mananakay kundi ng mga gumagamit ng personal mobility devices such as bicycles, scooters, and even skateboards, to sa pag-traverse from one place to another. And also yung yung pag-create ng safe roads, no, and safe sidewalks para sa mga tao para mas madali silang makapaglakad, no, sa ating mga kalsada, and mas nagiging accessible din para sa mga persons with disabilities yung mga dire-design natin ng mga kalsada. Although dito sa mga litrato na to, no, makikita natin na sa Pilipinas nga parang sobrang hindi pa rin ganoon kalakas yung pagpapahalaga sa sa active transportation mismo, no. Kung makikita nyo dito sa litrato sa right ng mga cyclists natin, hindi kung tutuusin hindi safe, no, yung kanilang dinadaanan. And then ito namang sa kabila, kahit makikita natin na meron tamang pedestrian lane, kumpara naman sa mga PWDs at sa mga bata, hindi siya safe, no? Especially ito, katapat ito ng isang eskwelahan. So yung design or yung disenyo ng ating mga kalsada, hindi siya very 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 car centric pa rin, at hindi pa rin napagbibigyan ng pansin yung paggawa ng infrastructure para sa bicycle, sa mga cyclists at sa mga pedestrians. Ayan. Yung next naman is placemaking. So, we also want to bring back the streets to the people because we believe na yung streets are public spaces. Hindi lang sila nag-act as channels or access para mag-move yung mga tao from one place to another, but they are also spaces na nagbibigay ng life, no, sa city. Yung placemaking or how people make meaning of their spaces, essential siya, no, sa pag-reclaim ng mga tao dun sa kanilang streets para maibalik ito sa komunidad at sa kanila mismo ng mga tao. So, sa LCT project, we are continuously, specifically sa sa component 2, yung awareness and capacity building. We are continuously putting effort sa pag-advocate sa pedestrianization at paggawa ng pag-shift, no, ng mga local government units to low carbon transportation. At isang form nito ay yung open streets. If familiar kayo sa Emerald Avenue sa Pasig, every Sunday, every Saturday, sinasara nila yung kanilang kalsada para magkaroon ng gathering, no? Parang may mga nagzuzumba, may mga art sessions, may mga Saturday market dun sa lugar. Meron ding mga bike rentals, at ito yung sidecar na mga rentals dun sa lugar. Nagiging isang isang activity siya or avenue para sa activity ng community. Ito naman sa kabila, ito ay sa Paseo de Rojas sa Makati, na parte ng San Salcedo Village. Na every Saturday din, during the Salcedo Saturday Market, sinasara rin nila para magkaroon nga ng spaces for parang mga tindahan at mga kainan. So, yung essence of using the streets as public spaces for the people, napakalaking halaga niya, no? Not only for community building, but also in promoting low carbon transport. Dahil kung hindi na kailangan maglakad or hindi na kailangan mag-travel ng mga tao sa malalayong lugar para lumapit or maka-access sa mga ganitong commodities, mas nare-reduce, no, yung travel, yung need for transportation ng mga tao. So with that, nagkaroon kami ng a series of workshops with a few LGUs na nabanggit ni Miss Raisa kanina, no. So last February, nagkaroon kami ng low carbon streets workshop sa Pasig and sa Santa Rosa, Laguna, wherein we invited several barangays in those LGUs and also mga technical staff from the different LGU offices para mag-reimagine ano ba yung dapat gawin nila or design ng mga streets nila. Not entirely closing down their street for such activities kagaya ng ginawa ng Emerald at ng Salcedo, ng Paseo de Rojas. But to reimagine, paano ba nila pwedeng gawing mas viable for walking, for active transportation, mas attractive para sa mga tao na lumabas at gamitin yung kalsada as for walking, for cycling, for socializing, no. So it was a 3-day workshop, and nung last day namin, nag-visit kami dun sa Emerald Avenue para makita nila ano ba yung ginagawa, no, ng Barangay San Antonio sa Pasig na interventions para nga sa promotion ng low carbon transportation. Based on this experience din, nakita namin, no, na meron pa rin happy pa rin, no, yung idea ng mga tao on using the streets as spaces for the people. Nung umpisa ng workshop, we asked them paano ba nila na-perceive yung kanilang mga kalsada. Unang nilang nilagay for cars, for tawag dito, parang parking ng mga sasakyan o kaya basurahan ng mga tao, ayan. Pero tapos during the process, makikita mo na para meron pa rin sa kanila na medyo hindi ganun ka open na mag-transition, no, yung kanilang mga kalsada into shared streets or into open streets. Shared streets meaning may ginagamit sa ng mga tao at ng mga sasakyan. Pero nung dumating sa last day after namin pumunta doon sa Emerald Avenue, tinanong ulit namin sila, ngayon, paano niyo na pino-perceive yung inyong mga kalsada? And nagkaroon ng shift, no, sa mindset ng mga tao na parang street or public spaces dapat priority natin pagdating sa kalsada ay yung mga tao at hindi yung mga sasakyan. So parang dito namin na-realize na yung promotion to low carbon transportation is not just about investments on EVs, yung pag-promote sa bike lanes, paggawa ng mga bike lanes, but social awareness din ng mga tao na ano ba yung shift sa mindset ng mga tao na dapat yung mga kalsada natin hindi lamang siya para sa mga sasakyan kundi para sa ating mga tao din. And another session naman na ginawa namin was with the children. So eto medyo mas refreshing yung approach nito, no, dahil ang makakausap na namin ay mga bata, mga preteens, mga 11 to 12 years old. Although hindi na sila ganoon kabata, no, nandun na sila sa part na gusto nilang maging adults. So medyo interesting yung mindset naman ng mga batang ito. So ito ay ginawa namin sa Baguio City naman, sa Baguio City National High School Hillside Annex, wherein we were invited to conduct a workshop para sa mga grade 7 students. Tapos ang mangyayari ay i-redesign nila yung harapan ng kanilang eskwelahan para malaman namin ano ba yung gustong mangyari ng mga bata, no, na disenyo ng kanilang mga kalsada. Surprisingly, yung mga bata, alam nila kung ano talaga yung gusto nilang mangyari. Meron na silang konsepto ng isa lang yung pwedeng dumaan na sasakyan, malaki yung space para sa mga bikes, malaki yung space kung saan sila pwedeng umupo, pwede silang mag-hangout ng kanilang mga kaklase or mga kaibigan. At isang pinaka nakuha namin na take away from this. Actually, parang feeling nga namin mas kami yung natuto kaysa sila dahil interesting makita yung perspective ng mga bata in terms of development. Dahil sila yung mismong gumagamit ng kalsada araw-araw. Tong harapan mismo ng school at kinikwento nila na dito nga sila naglalakad lang sila from galing sa bahay nila papunta sa eskwelahan. At sila mismo yung nagsasabi na hindi talaga safe yung kalsada para sa kanila ng mga estudyante. Actually, itong first photo sa left, ito yung drawing, no. Hinati namin sila into 6 group at pinag-drawing namin sila. Ano ba yung gusto nga nilang maging disenyo ng kanilang nung kanilang kalsada dun sa harapan ng eskwelahan. At dito naman sa left photo, drawing na nila doon sa street mismo. Kung ano ba yung parang life size na scale ng kanilang mga designs. And makikita namin during the activity na ang dami talaga dumadaan na sasakyan. And yung mismo mga bata, parang medyo na-annoy na sila na hindi nila matapos yung kanilang dinodrawing. Kasi every time na magdodrawing sila, meron tumadating na sasakyan. So, yun yung isa sa mga takeaways namin from this. Na when we include the children sa pagpaplano, we're also thinking na ano ba yung holistic approach sa development. Dahil kadalasan pag tinitignan natin yung mga bata, very dependent pa rin sila sa mga magulang nila. Pero in terms of development perspective, mas na-empower natin yung mga bata kapag they can be independent sa paggamit ng kanilang mga espasyo, ng kanilang mga public spaces, no. Dahil hindi naman sila nagiging full citizens lang or buong tao lang kapag naging adult na sila. Kundi buo na silang tao kahit bata pa lang sila. So dapat pinapakinggan natin kung ano ba yung gusto nilang mangyaring development sa kanilang mga lugar. At isa doon ay yung pagkakaroon ng safe na streets at accessible na streets para magamit nila sa paglalakad, sa pagbabike at sa paglalaro. So ending our presentation, gusto ko lang balikan na transportation is a fundamental human activity, no? And very vital siya na aspect of urban development. So with that, the key to sustainable transportation is actually creating spaces of movement na equitable, safe, and inclusive para sa lahat. And that means prioritizing public and active modes of transportation while ensuring na ito ay affordable, accessible sa lahat ng tao. So, thank you very much for listening sa aming maikling presentation. Salamat po.
Wow, thank you, Ms. Raisa and JV. Very insightful, and I think it's really good to know itong mga ganitong projects and yung mga inyong mga learnings about it na ma-share sa mga, well, in this case, no, sa mga academics and maging bahagi din later ng mga academic research. So at this point, we will be proceeding with the open forum. For our audience, please use the Zoom chat box to type your questions or comments, or you may raise your hand and wait to be acknowledged before you can directly ask your questions to the speakers. Sige, tingnan po natin kung mayroon tayong mga nagtatanong. Okay, so let's start with TJ. So from my observation, according to him, much of our infrastructure projects related to the transport sector are geared towards more expressways, which he thinks are car-centric or more private car-centric. So how do we reconcile this priority in our infrastructure plan to that of the advocacy of promoting more active transport systems in the country?
And thank you, TJ, for the question. No? Siguro, kung sasagutin ko siya, hindi, yung issue kasi on expressways, no? Dahil long distance yung travel niya, mas kumbaga relevant ito sa rail, no. So parang in terms of active transportation, sobrang haba na nung distance para pwede siyang lakarin or parang viable siya for normal cycling, you know, hindi yung leisure or parang sports the cycling. So if we were to advocate, no, for this part of um need, no, for transportation, pinaka viable talaga is yung rail. And currently meron namang project, hindi naman po kami spokesperson ng DOTr, no, pero currently there are projects, no, ng DOTr na patuloy na ini-improve yung railways natin to the north and to the south. Although ngayon sa Luzon pa lang yung target nila, no, which is the north-south commuter rail line, no. It is funded by the ADB. Ayan. So ongoing naman yung pag-develop nila nito, and hopefully once matapos itong project na to, no, yung NSTR, mas madali na makapag-travel na hindi kailangan gumamit ng expressway. Ayun.
Thank you, JV. So any other questions? Huwag kayong mahiya, no? Yung ating mga audience dyan, no, na may mga questions or clarifications na gustong itanong tungkol sa project. And I think this is a good opportunity kasi makikita talaga natin dito yung ating mga pinag-aaralan sa university. No, theoretically, madaling sabihin that we want to do or we want to make our transportation really more low carbon oriented. Pero how does it happen in practice? So palagi ko ito na talaga yun, ano? So sige, let's start with we have Ma'am Cathy and Jim. So Jim, let's start with you. Ma'am Cathy, una yata kayo. Go, ma'am.
Hi, good evening. Actually, it's more of really a comment. How much I appreciate itong studies na ginagawa ni na Raisa and JP, because I remember growing up sa Cubao area, was the part of Cubao na nasa likod yung apartment na tinitira namin nung mga bus terminals along EDSA, and it's really space. Parang lagi kaming sinasabihan na mag-ingat paglalabas. So even just walking from the house to we really have to be very careful. And I don't remember ever going out to do biking or jogging in that area kasi yung mga buses talaga hindi safe. Especially I lived there until I was in my teens. So everything that we had to do, buti malaki yung area doon sa loob ng compound where we can actually play as kids, we can do some biking, but streets, they're a no-go. And then also, napakita nyo rin doon sa studies na ginagawa nyo, the importance of the open spaces. So now at least merong, even the UP Academic Oval, have an open space on the weekends because I go there on to go jogging, and I really appreciate this. And it's good that someone the importance of this para magkaroon and design of the streets. We can have some examples of how shared space could be. The other thing lang then that I was thinking about listening to your presentation is about the common area, well, shared public area for the on some of the spaces naman na parang naaabuso rin naman yung paggamit ng streets, ng public space for ng mga tao. And it's not just for parking, but in some areas, it becomes an extension of their living room. It becomes an extension of even the kitchen, or pagka meron din namang areas na nakikita natin yan, ginagamit yung streets kapag may burol. And is this really how we use our streets? Is this really the intent of an space? No? Parang nagiging free for all, labo-labo. So I think there's also that fine line of when we can use the term open space and not just an extension of someone else's activities. So yeah, yun lang naman. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am Cathy. Actually, no? Palagay ko, yung na-share ni Ma'am Cathy about, yung mga ganitong, as much as we want yung our streets to be more people-oriented. Actually, yung madalas natin nakikita ako, taga Santa Mesa, yung may mga taga Manila sa inyo, karamihan ng ating mga, hindi naman karamihan, pero maraming areas, nagiging barbecuehan yung, yung mga tabing kalsada o yung mga sidewalks. It's nice to see people on the sidewalks, walking, and mas accessible siya. Kaya lang, yun nga, prone naman siya sa ganong abuse. Okay, so meron tayong mga ilang comments, but before we go there, si Jim muna.
Ayan. Good evening sa ating lahat. So I am Jim, also a geography graduate, and now also working sa isang LGU. And siguro yung comment or mas focus ko na gustong tanungin din and to ask about ay yung on the hesitancy, for example, to adopt these emerging technologies na totohan naman na parang makakatulong din siya. Yung hesitancy, for example, ng mga transport service providers na especially socio-economic or financially speaking yung concern nila. Na based din naman sa parang sa mga literature or marami na rin namang studies na syempre yung transport naman kaya rin siya geographical dahil sobrang broad niya and even indirectly ay kaya niyang makaambag economically basta maayos yung transport system and mailink siya sa iba't ibang mga economic sectors ay kaya talaga niyang mag-boost. Tapos pero siguro yun nga parang hindi kasi usually ganun yung parang perspective. Case siguro ng kuan natin ay ng group na nag-present, parang yun ba may mga ganun bang studies na pwede ring na ginagawa ninyo na pwede siguro na kung sakaling mai-present sa mga transport service providers and at the same time planning with the LGU with the stakeholders ay kayang ma-ease yung ganung hesitancy na although mahirap siyang gawin pero yun nga parang step by step gawin ay pwedeng kunwari ma-solve yung about finance dahil sila naman lahat naman makaka-share ng benefits ng maayos ng transport system na linked sa iba't ibang economic activities. So yun, and so siguro yun sa about sa planning. Tapos at the same time yung hesitancy na may mga programs ba siguro yung project na ito na related sa mga parang community building with the transport service communities or providers para tawag doon, parang yun nga, parang step by step din nilang ma-adjust yung tawag doon, yung systems or organization nila para mag-develop din yung organization or cooperatives nila until maka-adopt or ma-avail nila or access yung ganitong mga technologies. So parang ganun. So somewhat social, yung social aspect naman ngayon ng transport development yung ganun yung question ko din. Parang ganun. Yun po. Thank you.
Ms. Raisa,
Yeah.
Ms. Raisa.
Thank you so much, sir. Sino yung si Sir Jim?
Jim.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sir Jim. Actually, part nung project yan, pero not on a big scale, not on a national level, unfortunately, because syempre, nasa pilot pa lang tayo, pilot ng proyektong ito. Pero tama, Prof. Jake, no, yung binanggit ni Sir Jim, na dapat may social aspect itong transport planning na ito. Kaya nga, dahil nung pumasok itong proyekto, ongoing na yung PUVMP, trinay po natin na tugunan itong social aspect na ito dun sa hesitancy. For instance, nabanggit ko kanina during my short discussion na nilink po natin yung mga transport cooperatives and corporations and other entities sa mga manufacturers, ganyan, nagpa-present po tayo. Meron tayong investment forum noong January na finanda ni UNDP, Jeff, na para i-connect itong mga transport cooperatives po sa mga manufacturers para makita nila na ito yung matitipid mo pag nag-shift ka to EV, ito yung mga sagot sa mga hesitancy, sa mga agam-agam tungkol sa teknolohiya ng electric vehicles. So yun po yung mga maliliit na ang tinatawag naming low-hanging fruit sa proyektong ito. Ito po yung mga ginagawa natin. But then again, when we get the chance, of course, we will also document everything. Well, we already documented everything. And eventually, after project closure, probably we can give these documentation and report to the government, to DOTr in particular, para din po may pagpatuloy niya, para nandito na po yung sustainability aspect of yung LCT sa ibang lugar sa Pilipinas at hindi lamang po sa 4 na pilot cities. May dadagdag ka pa ba, JB? Or wala na, okay na. So, yun lang po. Thank
Actually,
you.
Ms. Raisa, JB, before you go to the comments, may yung project ba has kasi naman madali, hindi naman madali, but we can always say that sa mga planning, sa mga investment forum na mas matipid talaga yung electric vehicle, it's low carbon, maraming mga advantages. Pero naman, lalo na when we talked about sa mga ating mga drivers, operators, or sa cooperatives, parang to see is to believe. Meron ba talagang sa inyong experience sa project na ito, meron bang para talagang concrete, solid evidence or parang ebidensya or na nagsasabi na EV is working in terms of achieving those objectives na mas matipid, environmentally friendly, or low carbon?
Yes, Prof. Jake. Actually, dun sa investment forum na yon, ang design na ginawa natin is, aside from i-introduce yung mga EV manufacturers sa transport entities, nag-invite din tayo ng mga currently transport cooperatives na nagpa-apply na po ng electric vehicles. So Jensan, we invited I forgot, Lado Transco of General Santos City. Sila po meron na pong more than 30 EVs plying the street of General Santos City, and we also invited si Alabang Sapote,
meron na din po dito sa Alabang Zapote na nagpa-apply din po ng mga electric vehicles. So we invited them. So sabi nyo nga, Prof. J, even during yung a short time na we've been talking to these transport entities, madami pa ding agam na to see is to believe eh. Mahirap magmaneho ng EV. So parang parang magbabago yung aming nakasanayan, di ba? So, kaya po, inintroduce namin tong mga transport cooperatives na to para sila yung patunay, kumbaga, na it's actually working. At though malaki yung investment, yun kasi yung mostly problem ng ating mga transport cooperatives, Prof, na malaki yung investment, yung upfront cost ng pag-change to EV as opposed to yung current na modernized fleets ng Euro 4, Euro 5 units, mas malaki pa rin yung upfront cost ni EV. Pero na-prove po ni General Santos City, ni Lado Transco, na in the long run, well, actually not really long run medium term, yung pinapakita niya na financial statement niya na kumikita na sila. And as of now, they're still expanding their fleet. So it can also happen to other transport cooperatives. That's why we're opening this opportunity for them na to try electric vehicles. And siguro as part of the project, Prof. J, meron tayong maliit na incentive sa pilot cities natin. Hindi we are trying to buy electric vehicles for them para magamit nila, and para yung nabanggit ko din kanina na tumaas yung trust nila sa paggamit ng electric vehicle. Though again, limited ulit yung budget natin. Yun, I think kahit 1 to 2 vehicles na ipatry natin sa mga transport cooperatives, I think it will make a difference pa din po. So yun yung mga steps na nagawa natin sa programang ito, at sana mapagpatuloy pa natin in the next phases of the project. Do you want to add something? I think, yeah. Okay, over, Prof.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, pag baka may sumobra na EV ha, I think UP would be happy to to accept that.
Kulang nga po, Prof.
Punta po tayo sa mga comments. Really, marami pong mga insights sa ating comments. Basahin ko yung mga ilan, and I think there are some questions then. I'll give back the I'll give them back to JV and Ma'am Raisa to answer. Sabi ni Ryan, it seems that the idea being encouraged for transportation is moving people, not cars. Considering other factors why people move, travel, migrate in the Philippines, especially in relation to job opportunities. So why not move services and job opportunities instead? Matagal na itong idea actually, and noong nakarang Holy Week, apparent ito sa social media, sa mga memes, photos showing the congested roads in NCR with captions na nagsasabing para sa mga taga-probinsya, wag na kayong bumalik sa Manila, yung mga umuwi, nagbakasyon. And also Ryan said here, idiretso ko na, kay Ryan, regarding the open street idea, may study na po ba on the feasibility of the approach in relation to the socio-economic status of the LGU? Or is the idea of the open street target only to certain or targets only to certain LGUs? Salamat.
Okay. Sir Jake, sagutin ko na po. Kanina nag-chat ako kay Sir Jake, sabi ko parang bagay yung comment ni Ryan for transport zone, no? So, yun nga, parang yung kanina pinag-uusapan natin, yung transport zone, hindi lang naman sa parang movement of people but also movement of goods, services, and ideas. Siguro yung comment na to it's not only about the availability or yung demand for work, but also about how we design our street, our cities, our yung urban development natin. So another aspect of low carbon transport actually is transit-oriented development. So, if meron kasi si low carbon transport, pero sa sinusunod na avoid shift improve framework kung saan yung avoid parang kung as much as possible kung kayang i-reduce yung paggamit ng transportation gawin natin, or kung meron man tayong kailangang palitan ng mga practices, i-shift natin, at kung meron tayong mga kailangan pang ayusin na problema, i-improve natin para ma-reach nga yung goal for low carbon transport. And part of yung avoid interventions is actually promoting transport-oriented development. And sa project namin, one of yung policy support na ginawa namin is the crafting and yung signing of executive orders to adopt transit-oriented development dun sa aming mga pilot cities. So we believe kasi na if we create compact cities, compact development, kung saan kahit hindi na kailangan pumunta ng mga tao sa mga malalaking syudad para magkaroon ng opportunities for employment, opportunities for leisure and whatnot, mas nalilesen natin yung demand for long distance travel or yung mga transportation na ganito. Regarding naman dun sa second question ni Ryan, this is actually a good question, kasi nung nagkaroon kami ng low carbon streets workshop sa Pasig and sa Santa Rosa, Laguna, yung pinakamalaking issue na lagi nilang sinasabi is wala kaming pondo para gawin yan. Pero yung idea kasi ng open street, hindi naman siya kailangan engrande kaagad, na isasara natin to, maglalagay tayo ng mga ganitong mga infrastructure, ganitong facilities, ganitong amenities para sa mga tao. May tinatawag na isang intervention, which is yung tactical urbanism, kung saan yung mismo paglalagay ng mga paint, ng pagpipintura doon sa kalsada para ma-identify kung ano ba yung barrier, yung boundaries na pwedeng daanan ng mga sasakyan, ano ba yung spaces na dapat ay para sa mga tao, is actually a form of shifting to a more pedestrianized, a more open street para sa mga communities. So we believe na parang kahit sa mga ganitong kaliliit na paraan, mas na unti-unti na ibabalik natin yung kalsada para gamitin ng mga tao. I-share ko lang, we're actually preparing for street art activity sa isang barangay sa Pasig. Every Sunday kasi tinatransform na nila yung kanilang main road into an open street, and gusto nung kanilang lugar na gawin na siyang parang magkaroon na ng visual identity yung kalsada para malaman ng mga tao na open street to. So we partnered up with UP College of Fine Arts and also yung NSTP ng UP Diliman, and also our supplier from our paint supplier from Boysen. We partnered with all of them para may sakatuparan yung pangarap ng community na i-transform na visually yung kanilang street into an open street. Although syempre in phases pa rin siya na kayang i-adopt ng barangay in the long run. Ayun, sir.
Thank you, JV. Thank you sa elaborated response sa mga questions and comments ni Ryan. Si Jess has a question. Sabi niya, in more developed countries, people rely on railway systems to get about. However, these railway systems are usually above ground rather than subway systems. Would the Philippines benefit more from subway systems as opposed to above ground railways? I'm not sure if that's still part of the LCT project, but we would be happy to know your, to know your insights about it.
Ayan. Ano, ako muna, JB? Yeah. So, hindi na siya part ng LCT project, pero syempre, for the purposes of discussion, ano kasi, parang it depends pa din dun sa kung ano yung quality nung soil. Yan kasi yung pagkakaalam ko dahil well, may sunerte tayo na ma-experience ang mamuhay sa Singapore for quite a while. At yun yung natutunan ko doon sa kanilang smart city na sinasabi nila na it differs depending on the soil ground quality, something like that. Kasi in Singapore ano siya hollow na underground and above ground yung kanilang railway or train system. So depende po yun. And for the Philippines siguro kung sa ganitong traffic, kasi sa ganitong sitwasyon, baka mas maka-benefit sa atin yung below ground. But again, I am not, hindi ako engineer or architect or whatever, at hindi ko alam kung ano yung dapat ba na disenyo. Siguro matutulungan ako ni Architect JB.
Hindi ko rin masagot yan, Miss Rai, no? Hindi ako engineer. Pero siguro from the perspective na lang din ng DRR, no? Dito si Sir Prof ko sa DRR. Very vulnerable pa rin if yung especially sa Metro Manila na magana tayo mag subway system. Pero yung best alternative siguro to this ay yung kung gusto talaga natin na ano siya, on grade siya, no? Na madali siya ma-access ng mga pedestrians, ng mga PWDs, is yung BRT, no? Siguro yung busway system sa EDSA would be a great start, no? For this system. Pero pwede pa siyang mapalawak na network talaga siya of BRT sa Metro Manila. Una-una, mas madali yung infrastructure niya dahil hindi natin kailangan magtayo ng subgrade or ng above grade na mga riles. And madali rin natin tong i-convert into lanes na pwedeng gamitin ng mga sasakyan or ng mga tao at ng mga bikes. At yung buses din, pwede rin siyang eventually yung mga buses natin, pwede rin siyang maging electric buses, no? Na marami ka nang naisasakay ng mga tao, mas lesser pa yung carbon emissions mo. Ayun po. So siguro we should not parang limit ourselves dun sa idea of just using rail as a form of mass transportation, but also looking at other feasible, no, and proven na mga technologies na ginagamit sa ibang bansa, such as yung BRT system.
Okay, so thank you, Ms. Raisa, JB. We will have, ito na po yung ating, as much as we want to have more discussions and you to ask questions to Ms. Raisa and JB, let's have Angelo, yung pang ating last questions at comment before we end the session. Sabi ni Angelo, in low-income cities or provinces where tricycles are the primary mode of transportation, how can the implementation of the LCT project be achieved? Are there any strategies that can be employed, such as conducting a feasibility study to determine the project's viability before implementation? At siguro, diretso ko na sa iyo next comment, Angelo, or questions. Sabi rin ni Angelo, or questions niya, how can the LCT project help address the challenges faced by commuters, particularly students in low-income cities with heavy traffic, congestions like City of Lawag in Ilocos Norte, where the main roads are only 2 lanes and most of the transport mode are tricycle and private vehicles. As a student in Lawag, he experiences the inconvenience and inefficiency of rush hour travel from his home to school, which is only 1 kilometer away, taking 15 minutes due to the high volume of tricycle and private vehicles on the road. Additionally, he's exposed to hazardous smoke emitted by tricycles. and the heat from these vehicles is very uncomfortable. So what benefits can the LCT project bring to improve these conditions for commuters, and what factors need to be considered to ensure its successful implementation in low-income cities like Lawag, Ilocos Norte? Baka may electric tricycle din kayo dyan, Miss Raisa, JV, ha? Sige.
Okay. Thank you, Angelo, for the very insightful comment and question. No. To answer the first question about how parang viability of the project or low carbon transportation in low income cities and provinces. Currently, we are actually conducting capacity development sa mga local government units through the help nga of NCTS. And through these capacity development activities, nalaman namin ano ba yung mga current na status ng kanilang transportation in terms of public transportation. And marami nga sa kanila gumagamit pa rin talaga ng tricycles as primary mode of transportation, especially sa Pasig and sa Santa Rosa. Surprisingly, kahit nasa Metro Manila na sila banda or Mega Manila, sobrang pa rin parang pangunahin pa rin na mode of transportation tricycles. And yun yung isa sa mga tinitignan namin na parang intersection ng low carbon transport when it comes to yung last mile transportation na tricycles. Kasi ano ba yung mga pwedeng policies na pwedeng dun bumalik Ano ba yung mga policies na pwedeng gawin ng LGU para maka-adopt slowly yung kanilang yung kanilang urban planning sa transportation na very very driven or very dependent sa e-trek. If I may share yung sa Pasig City, when we were discussing with them yung tungkol nga sa incentive scheme na nabanggit ng Israel sa kanina, ang isa talaga nilang tinitignan is EV trikes, yung mga EV na mga tricycles. Dahil yun yung main mode of transportation at sa Pasig. Another factor din naman po is ano ba yung mga alternative na transportation na pwedeng gawin ng cities na hindi na kailangan sumakay ng tricycle para makaikot dun sa kanilang cities And dito po nakakatulong yung pag improve natin ng infrastructure for biking, for walking, dahil for sure kaya din po mas dependent sila sa paggamit ng tricycles kahit last mile transportation ito, dahil yung mismong mga kalsada, yung mismong mga streets ay hindi safe at hindi comfortable at accessible para lakaran at para magbike. So if we improve yung mga ganitong infrastructure for them, we're not only eliminating or reducing yung dependency nila on tricycles, but also promoting yung other forms of mobilities po.
If
I can add something.
Yeah. Thank you, Angelo, Si Angelo, Prof. Jake, kapitbahay ko yan sa Ilocos Norte. So, lagi ko yan kasama pag naglalakad kami. So, I actually share his sentiment. And to add lang to what JB mentioned, siguro the best way talaga for us to improve yung estado ng transportation sa mga cities tulad ng sa amin is to introduce yung alternative form of transportation. Kasi nga, nabanggit ko nga, kasama ko laging naglalakad yan si Angelo pag sa umaga o kaya ng hapon. And it's really very unsafe. So, wala kaming mga walkways, walang bike lanes, gano'n sa Ilocos Norte po, sa Ilocos Norte, sa Lawag City. Walang gano'n, Prof. And that's why yung mga tao, they'd rather ride the tricycles, and walang taxi doon. Well, may taxi, pero very limited, parang 5 units lang yung taxi na umiikot doon. So tricycle po talaga. So yun yung ina-advocate natin, and hopefully since taga dyan naman ako, Jello, baka gusto mo akong tulungan na mag-advocate sa local government, dahil si Angelo ay student leader yan dyan sa Ilocos Norte, Prof. And very active po siya. So ayun po, baka ganun na lang na we will advocate. Since kaibigan naman natin yung Vice Mayor at Mayor dyan sa Lawag, baka pwede po nating i-advocate yung active transportation para people will feel safer using active transport. Kasi talaga yung mga tricycle po namin sa Ilocos, yung pollution. Parang lumang-luma na, matanda pa sa tatay ko siguro yung mga makina ng mga tricycle na yon. So ayun po. Sobrang at itong last comment ni Angelo, yung volume talaga ng tricycle din ay nagki-cater dun sa malaking populasyon ng Lawag City. So ayun po, siguro Jello, yun yung kaya nating itulong sa ating probinsya na hindi naman natin i-displace tulad ng ginagawa natin, Prof, dito sa ibang pilot cities, no? Kasi akala nila dun sa modernization program ng DOTr, may madi-displace. Pero yun po yung gusto din nating i-prevent sana na walang displacement. Dahil madami namang ibang available jobs. For instance, pag sa EV, yung EV technicians, malaki po yung demand niyan. Eventually, pag nag-normalize na or na mainstream na po yung paggamit natin ng electric vehicles. So hindi lang ito sa mga class 1, class 2 jeepneys or vehicles, but also sa tricycles. Tignan niyo po yung nangyari sa Boracay, di ba? Most 100% na ata po sila na naka-electric tricycles. So may mga work din, mga trabaho din na mag-e-employ ng mga technicians, battery technicians, electric vehicle technicians, gano'n. At syempre, mai-increase din yung demand dun sa charging stations, ganyan. Pwede ding may mga mag-cooperative na mag-cater din nung demand for charging stations. So gano'n, yun yung design at least ng proyekto, Angelo. It's just unfortunate na hindi pilot city ang ating city sa Ilocos Norte. But yeah, since we're in this advocacy, we can probably help the local government eventually. Salamat, Prof. J.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Raisa, JV, and of course sa ating mga audience who to all of you who actively participated sa ating session ngayon. Definitely itong low carbon urban transport systems project is a very important step forward to achieving our broader sustainable transport goals. At definitely hindi ito isang one-shot activity. Nakita natin, no, sumasanga-sanga yung maraming mga pwedeng gawin to really achieve this goal, at marami pang mga opportunities to do it. At syempre, talagang sa simula ng mga ganitong mga project or objective, no, ay laging may mga resistance, but in a way it also reflects yung mga sentiments din ng ating mga publiko, ng mga drivers, ng mga operators, nating mga commuters, at hindi rin pwedeng ipagsawalang bahala, no? Definitely kailangan din talagang tingnan kung bakit may mga ganitong hindi lang naman resistance, but may doubts, hesitations. At balagay ko dito tayo papasok ng mga akademiko upang pag-aralan, no? Itong mga bagay na ito. So definitely hindi lang ito issue ng new technology, it's more behavioral. It requires behavioral changes, acceptance ng mga goals na talagang gusto nating ma-achieve, lalo na dito sa ating transportation sector. Okay, so I guess it's now time to again, thank you everyone for the insightful discussion, especially to Ms. Raisa and JB. Now, at this point, allow me to present the certificate of appreciation to our speakers. So online certificates muna, Ms. Raisa, JB. But if you, we can send you a physical copy of these certificates. So the certificate of appreciation is given to Raisa Neith Salvador and of course to JB Valderrama for the valuable insights and expertise shared to us virtually as resource speakers for the talk, Places and Mobility Promotion of Low Carbon Urban Transport Systems project in the Philippines. And this is part of the Geo Lecture Series 2023, held on May 4, 2023 via Zoom, assigned by our Chair of the Department of Geography, or UP Department of Geography, Dr. Joseph Palis, and our President of the Philippine Geographical Society, Emmanuel B. Garcia. Thank you, ma'am, sa inyong time. Pero wag muna kayong aalis. Before we end this session, allow me to call Dr. Joseph Palis, our Chair of the UP Department of Geography, to give us his closing remarks. Sir Joe?
Thank you. Thank you very much, especially to JB and Raisa. I learned so much from your talk. Also, the questions and the comments from the audience are definitely thought-provoking and something we can maybe reflect on. No, we do not have easy answers to all of this, but these provocations are meant for us to reflect on how best to approach this particular problem. I made a few notes here. If you don't mind, I'm just gonna go over them. They may appear a bit scattershot at this point, but these are some of the things that resonate with me. It's not meant to be a summation or synthesis of everything else that has taken place, but allow me, if you will, just for a few minutes to look into this. I think the big question I wanted to ask here is who has the right to the streets? You know, who does it belong to? I think this stemmed from the idea earlier that most of the observations, especially in the streets of Metro Manila, are car-centric. And for example, I know that there is an overpass in Kamuning and Camias, which is extremely high. You know, I teach a class on violent geographies, and I feel like it's a form of violence for people in order to trek the particular mountain in order to cross the other side of the street, which proves that it's really the cars that are being given more importance by the state government rather than the people. And Ryan has insightfully said something about transportation is about really moving people rather than cars, right? So that's the provocation I wanted to ask everyone who has the right to the streets, especially for this. So this project that was presented to us give us a rather hopeful. We anticipate hopefully how this can actually work, but also a caveat to everyone saying that this is not going to be something that will work for all cases. Now, that's why there are only very specific case studies or pilot studies, I think that was what was mentioned, to see whether they work. So ultimately, all these questions that you ask from Lawag to other provinces may not necessarily benefit from some of the directives that are being given by the LCT, but in a sense, they are giving us grounded observation about what's going on in those areas. There's a place in Brazil called Curitiba, if you're probably familiar with it. It's the first green city. I remember it so well because I was very interested in it. And when I showed it to my students, it's about the use of the railway. So in the context of Brazil, railway is the way to move people, right? So there is the infrastructure that comes with it. And as mentioned earlier by both JB and Raisa, you always have to also look at the urban planning of a specific locale. You know, you just can't impose something and think they can work in specific areas. Also, if rail is the way to go in Curitiba, what are the alternative forms of transportation that we have in the Philippines that we can best deploy in order to lessen or to have a more decarbonized future? So they mentioned something like biking, walking, but then it also begs the question, how walkable are our cities? A few years ago, Dr. Gutierrez and myself were handling a thesis class, remember, for the geography majors, Geography 199. And one of the students actually, this was pre-pandemic, asked the question, how walkable? I think he focused on Ortigas. And after doing a lot of research, it was found out to be not walkable at all, right? So it's an interesting study to look at. Maybe we could look into that as well. The other thing I would like to mention also is, aside from, this is the last one, promise, looking at place-specific and culture-specific places wherein certain kinds of projects could work is the importance of looking at, as I said earlier, alternative forms of transportation. Angelo has mentioned something in Lawag, and Raisa, I think, joined that call, to maybe becoming more active advocates for specific kinds of transportation or modalities. But I think we're also not looking at or not recognizing the elephant in the room in terms of the population pressure that exerts so much on a given population or locale. That contributes a lot to it, And I like this talk a lot because of its desire to somehow come up with a much more low carbon transportation. But even the so-called cities, post-industrialized, I hesitate to call them developed cities, just as a matter of principle. But post-industrialized cities have their own problems. New York City, for example, uses subways and all forms of mass transportation that is open 24/7. But in terms of gas emissions and footprints, carbon footprints in the environment, that leaves nothing much to be desired in terms of how it can do in the future. But of course, we are moving towards sustainable ways of doing things, and I applaud this project because not only is it the first time I've heard of it being conducted in the Philippines, but also because many of us really wanted this to succeed, and at least, if not to succeed, maybe to understand what are the ways in which we can still find a solution. We're all going to work together. We're not here to criticize. We're here to help each other, and we wanted to see how that works. And our speakers have the training to somehow help us figure this out. So basically, those thoughts were the ones that came to me as someone who's not really an expert in transport studies, but who is also, just like all of you here, understand that transportation need not only ferry people to other places, but also to have less carbon footprints for the good of the environment. So thank you very much again, Raisa and JB, for this wonderful and, at least to me, refreshing talk. Thank you. And also, I believe I need to say something. Okay, here you go. We have two more that's coming up this month. As Jake has mentioned, we have two speakers coming. So if you have a chance to come to that. Also in keeping with what Raisa and JB has mentioned, a very different way of looking at how we can improve the environment in the world. False Weiser from Martin Luther University, that's in Halle in Germany, is going to give a talk called Searching for Engaged Cartography. And I believe some of the students who are in this Zoom chats are also students in counter cartography. You may be interested to come to that. This will be, it's endeavored to actually be co-sponsored by the Junior Philippine Geographical Society and the Geographic Society of UP. And then on May 26th, a Filipino-American based in Riverside in the University of California system is going to talk about an excerpt of her dissertation in literature called Unfamiliar Waters, Representations of Marine Territoriality and Resource Extraction in Filipino Cultural Production. She also published an article recently in the Philippine Studies, which is pretty much about it. So geography is so broad and so wonderful and so exciting, just like this talk that we have. So thank you.
Thank you, Sergio. And also, our past lectures are all stored in the UP Department of Geography YouTube channel. You can visit our channel to watch our previous lectures as well as other recorded events of the PGS and the Department of Geography. And with your permission, Ms. Raisa, JB, isasama rin namin ito doon sa ating YouTube channel. For those who wanted to join us pero hindi naka-join for because of work and for other reasons. Actually, we had marami tayong mga nanonood ng mga past lectures, lalo na sa ating mga students then who who got to know the website, our YouTube, at gusto mapanood yung mga previous lectures. Okay.